The sixth patriarch Huineng once said this: Buddha Dharma exists in the world. It is inseparable from worldly awareness. Seeking enlightenment apart from the world is like searching for a rabbit's horn. Just now, Khenpo Sodargye used the simplest and most accessible language to reveal the profound wisdom of life. He told us the truth about life and the responsibilities we should bear in the future. I believe that every single student, every teacher, and every individual present here today has their own unique feelings and insights. Especially when Khenpo mentioned that we should always have a sincere heart of gratitude. This is an extremely important and fundamental point. For this special lecture, many of our dedicated staff members have put in a great deal of effort. They have worked hard for many days, promoting the event for days on end. It has not been easy. Khenpo Sodargye also went to great lengths to come here and give this lecture to everyone, which was not easy either. Let us once again express our gratitude to them with a round of warm applause. I am certain that everyone must have many various questions they would truly like to discuss with Khenpo. Our Buddhist teachings also very much welcome everyone to engage in open and honest interaction. We sincerely hope everyone will actively ask questions. Now we will move on to the Q&A session.
Greetings, Master Sodargye. I am currently a student from the School of Civil Engineering, specializing in the major of Engineering Management, and I am a member of the class of 2011. I would like to take this moment to respectfully ask you a question. There is a world-famous telecommunications company called Motorola. It has always had a philosophy which is, I want to make the best communication devices in the world to change the way the world communicates. It worked diligently for many years, and in the end, it successfully realized its original intention. I would now like to ask, what is the ultimate goal and original intention of Buddhism? Thank you.
Actually, I think for large-scale global enterprises, highly experienced professional architects, or the dedicated design engineers like those at Motorola, who are constantly pushing the boundaries of innovation every day, if their ultimate objective is to transform the entire world, then there are two distinct possibilities to consider. If their foundational corporate philosophy and core guiding principles truly are to meaningfully transform the global landscape, and it is not merely a superficial business marketing slogan or just an individual personal goal or a private ambition, I deeply think this noble spirit is both truly and exceptionally praiseworthy. Every person standing here today has certainly limited and finite abilities. You may not actually be able to truly change the entire world around you, but it's very important for every person to make such a solemn vow. In Buddhism, one should develop bodhicitta, vowing to become a Buddha and help all sentient beings. This philosophy is essentially the same. If any business organization functions and operates with a selfless conviction to promote their own unique corporate culture, that is also very good indeed. Take Steve Jobs, for example. In the early stages of his career, back when he was at Apple, a time came when they decided they didn't want him and forced him to leave the company. But then he made a remarkable return, and after he came back, every single morning he would dedicatedly meditate according to traditional Buddhist practices and methods of calm abiding and insight. Many of his innovative techniques and creative ideas were first discovered through profound personal meditation. After these discoveries, as many observers and biographers have frequently remarked, before Steve Jobs passed away, he significantly transformed the lives and destinies of many different people around the world. He also profoundly changed the entire world. There are many such significant and powerful claims as well. So I believe Motorola is deeply similar in this specific regard. From my personal perspective as a dedicated Buddhist, no matter what kind of large company or small group it is, as long as there is a genuine, compassionate and kind heart toward the world, we truly admire, deeply respect and sincerely rejoice in that noble spirit. Any individual whatsoever, including those who are dressed in traditional Buddhist robes like myself, must realize that if anyone does anything bad, harmful, or improper to other living beings, even if it causes them pain, we do not condone or offer praise for such actions. So in this vast world, there are many dedicated people who sincerely want to change our world into a much better place for everyone. But if we are to make changes, they should be for the better.
Respected Khenpo, hello. I am from the College of Agricultural Engineering and Food Science. I am currently a student majoring in agricultural machinery, class of 2011. Today I would like to ask you, Khenpo, as engineering students, we mainly deal with technology. Just a moment ago, you mentioned that within the teachings of Buddhism, we should always be grateful and strive to benefit all of humanity. In our work, what we mainly deal with is the field of technology. Previously, Albert Einstein famously said that we cannot simply use science and technology for our own sake alone. Instead, caring for the well-being of humanity should be the ultimate goal of all our technological endeavors and scientific pursuits. From the perspective of people like us, and from the unique standpoint of students majoring in technology, how should we strive to benefit all of humanity rather than helping to destroy it?
I firmly believe the technology you are working on is unquestionably technology that profoundly benefits humanity. You would not be actively researching or developing any technology that destroys humanity. Because up to now, I have not discovered nor heard of any school that is preparing to develop technology aimed at destroying humanity. I have not found such a thing. Of course, what I truly mean to say is that even when you are studying complex technology, if you genuinely have a kind and compassionate heart within yourself, I believe that to many varying degrees, your efforts will be beneficial to all of humanity. All forms of science and technology can be compared to a very large and powerful machine that serves our world. Within this large machine, some parts may be screws that are clearly visible, while others are hidden screws, not necessarily noticed by people on the outside. But you are actively playing your professional role to varying degrees. So when your technology is being applied in any operation or in any distinct and different way, if you possess the authentic and heartfelt compassion I just mentioned, it is my firm and sincere belief that any technology operated under the steady guidance of compassion should be truly beneficial to humanity and to all living beings on this planet. Of course, in this regard, perhaps in today's society, everyone needs to be mentally prepared within themselves. Otherwise, when you're in school, your mind is very simple and pure. And many teachers are also focused on learning knowledge. So the educational environment at school is different from that of the broader society. When you enter society, the people around you, they are not like the wonderful and supportive group of teachers you had during your time at school, because that group of teachers is there to nurture and cultivate your talent. Their purpose is, even the worst teacher wouldn't deliberately lead you astray. But in society, things are not necessarily like that. So whether it is practical technology or any kind of valuable knowledge, you truly need to maintain a sense of being calm and composed when applying it. Otherwise, it is very easy for things to change in a single instant.
So, hello, Venerable Sodargye. I am a student majoring in English from the 2012 class of the School of Foreign Languages. I have always been interested in the Kṣitigarbha Sutra and have paid close attention to Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva. I know that Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva has a famous saying, "If I do not go to hell, who will?" I would like to ask, in what aspects does Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva's wisdom about life manifest? And could you briefly introduce the main ideas of the Kṣitigarbha Sutra? Thank you.
In Buddhism, it is said that Kṣitigarbha and Manjushri Bodhisattva have solemnly made and established profound and vast spiritual vows. The specific vow made by Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva is that he will not attain Buddhahood until the hells are entirely empty. He made such a magnificent and selfless vow. In actual fact, when we consider whether all the 18 great hells can ever be emptied of suffering, that is simply not the case. However, the noble mindset of making such a profound and selfless vow remains a powerful testament to ultimate compassion. In the teachings of Buddhism, this is considered the highest form of spiritual aspiration. For example, if a teacher vows, "I will not choose to retire until every student has been taught and there are no more left to guide," in reality, that's not necessarily true, because there will never be a time when there are no students at all. The teacher will eventually reach the age when they retire from work too. In the same way, a bodhisattva also has a time when they attain Buddhahood. It is said that even Shakyamuni Buddha once made a very similar vow. Making such vows is something that every student and every single person should sincerely aspire to do in the future. Even if I cannot do it right now, I vow not to attain Buddhahood until the hells are empty. Or, I truly want to help and guide all sentient beings in the world. We should make such great vows, and although it may seem to you now that this is too much, that it's beyond your ability, the truth of the matter is I want to provide assistance to all of humanity. Some people from the very beginning only think, I want to help my family, I want to help my partner, I want to help myself. If your aspiration becomes narrower and narrower, your future achievements will not be very great. If the power of your vow continues to grow significantly more powerful, extraordinary miracles will most certainly begin to happen. Therefore, whether we are praying to Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva in our daily lives, or considering the 8 great bodhisattvas in Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings, 8 bodhisattvas such as Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, and Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, any one of these 8 great bodhisattvas, if we sincerely pray to them and recite their names frequently and aloud, then in our own mind streams we will naturally give rise to what is called great compassion. Furthermore, various other positive merits will also emerge naturally. So if every person prays sincere, meaningful prayers often in their daily life, including when facing various challenging difficulties and tough adversities, with the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you can free yourself from such crises.
Venerable Master, hello. I am from the School of Electrical Engineering. I have 2 questions I'd like to ask you. The first question is, as we know, Buddhism teaches that all phenomena are empty, that all appearances are illusory, that form is emptiness and emptiness is form. I would like to ask, as a Buddhist disciple, I read in Buddhist texts that one should keep the 6 senses pure and be single-mindedly devoted to the Buddha. Even the great Shakyamuni Buddha departed from his own father and relinquished his life with his own wife for the sake of the Dharma and to study Buddhism. Do many Buddhist disciples today still willingly leave their families, leave their own parents and children for the sake of the Dharma? What is your view on this phenomenon? Now, my second question for you is, a number of devoted Buddhist disciples say that Buddhism teaches the fundamental 6 various realms of reincarnation, that human life cannot escape the suffering of the 6 realms. Buddhist disciples practice in order to get free from the 6 realms of reincarnation, wholeheartedly recite the Amitabha's name and seek the Pure Land. But the Dharma also teaches that greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance are 4 human vices, and that one should recite the Buddha's name to overcome them. So, reciting the Buddha's name to seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land, isn't this the ultimate desire, the greatest craving? Is it a mindset of clinging to life and fearing death? Thank you.
Sure. I really appreciate it when many young people voice some of the confusions they have inside. Actually, this kind of internal confusion isn't just one person's experience. It's probably shared by many others in the world today. This is because many people haven't yet had the opportunity to systematically study the profound teachings of the Dharma and may only understand a part of it literally or superficially. At such times, there are many inner conflicts within themselves. Just now, he mentioned that all phenomena are empty, but then Shakyamuni Buddha left his family to become a monk. On the surface, it seems that if all phenomena are empty, then there would be no need to renounce the world or become a monk. Or to leave one's own family. Doesn't that appear to be a significant lack of compassion? Actually, it is perfectly understandable and natural that many people have this kind of thought in their minds. But in fact, I want to say that all phenomena are empty refers to the ultimate reality of all things. From the viewpoint of external appearances, Buddhism does not claim this to be the case either. At the Vajra seat in India, all of Shakyamuni Buddha's family at that time, even in terms of appearances, these are not said to be empty in that way. In Buddhism, the teachings that all phenomena are empty and that the 4 elements are empty all refer to the ultimate reality. This point is not only made in Buddhism. Even physicists say that the entire world is made up of atoms, atomic nuclei, electrons, quarks, subquarks, and so on. Ultimately, in the final analysis, even so-called fields do not have a real existence. This represents the core principle. So, the Buddhist teaching that form is emptiness is form, is very similar to the concept in physics that a bottle is made of molecules, and molecules are what make up the bottle. These theories are fundamentally the same. It's just that some aspects of emptiness are determined in terms of ultimate reality. But when we talk about appearances, on the surface, this seems like a contradiction. I've often mentioned this as well. Physics says it's made up of molecules, so how could you pour tea from molecules? Everyone knows that it distinguishes between appearance and ultimate reality. In terms of ultimate reality, this is made up of molecules. But in terms of appearances, even Einstein wouldn't deny that you can't pour water from it. So when we say all phenomena are empty, it means that from the perspective of ultimate reality, everything is empty. When Shakyamuni Buddha appeared before sentient beings, he first had a family and then renounced his royal palace and went to the Nairanjana river to practice austerities for 6 years. Finally, after attaining Buddhahood at the Vajra seat in India, he had achieved the highest level of enlightenment. After attaining this supreme enlightenment, he also repeatedly used the Dharma to guide his original family, including King Shuddhodana. He made great efforts to help them through Buddhism. Today, for example, when monks leave home on the surface, parents may think they are being unfilial after ordaining. Temporarily, it seems like unfilial behavior. Yet, as Huangbo said, ordaining is the ultimate filial piety. So from this perspective, some aspects of Shakyamuni Buddha's life path may seem to ordinary people as if he abandoned his family or lacked compassion in certain respects. However, from another angle, considering his great compassion for all sentient beings, if Shakyamuni Buddha had not attained such profound and complete enlightenment at that time, then the innumerable and vast sentient beings in the world today would not have truly benefited. Therefore, his manifestation of leaving home and becoming a monk at that time was also absolutely and fundamentally essential. Now, the second question, greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance are negative qualities that we must strive to abandon. But is aspiring to be reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss a form of desire? This is not a desire. Why? For example, there are two kinds of love in the world. Quite often, truly compassionate people give everything they have, both their own physical body and their inner mind, which is actually a profound form of genuine loving kindness. But the mere mindset of possession is itself true attachment and bondage. So, what about the idea of being reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss? In fact, in this spiritual context, it is not a selfish desire for personal possession. The true profound aspiration for rebirth in the pure land in Mahayana Buddhism is actually a sacred vow made to benefit countless sentient beings. There is a definite difference between greed and making aspirations. So, should this kind of aspiration ultimately be abandoned in Buddhism, this kind of attachment should indeed be let go of in the end. In Buddhism, there is often the saying, once you've crossed the river, you no longer need the boat. To reach the pure land of ultimate bliss, is the aspiration for rebirth necessary? Yes. Is it a form of greed? It is not gross greed, but it could be considered a subtle cognitive obscuration. However, even these subtle cognitive obscurations will be abandoned after reaching the pure land of ultimate bliss. Once you've reached the shore, you no longer need the boat. After arriving in the pure land of ultimate bliss, even such subtle attachments are no longer necessary. But attachment is of the nature of affliction. The mind aspiring for rebirth in the pure land is not of the nature of affliction. This distinction is made in the treasury of Abhidharma. One is a mental factor of affliction, the other is a non-afflictive mental factor. The concept of aspiration is a positive kind of intention, a wholesome mindset of longing or seeking. In terms of its essential nature, it is a virtuous state of mind, whereas greed is always of a non-virtuous nature. Ultimately, as one progresses, even the subtle layers of attachment must be completely relinquished. On the surface, both seem to be forms of aspiration, but their goals are different. For example, if I want to offer my assistance to you, that is a positive mindset. If I want to take away your possessions, that is a negative mindset. On the surface, both are forms of attachment toward others. But there is still a difference here.
Respected Khenpo Sodargye, hello. I'm a first-year graduate student at the College of Agricultural Engineering. I have a question I would like to ask you. As everyone knows, according to the theory of evolution, life on Earth has undergone a process of evolution. It follows the law of the jungle, the survival of the fittest. But from the perspective of Buddhism, life is also subject to reincarnation within the 6 realms. So, what should we do in the present day to truly be considered as being responsible for life and for the future? Thank you.
When we examine this through the profound lens of Buddhism, in the true nature of all phenomena, everything is ultimately empty. However, before you have successfully reached this pinnacle of this state, you will continue to cycle through the 6 realms of samsara. The fundamental reason for this cycle is not the body, but our mind. It is our very own consciousness that through the process of transmigration can persist and continue into future lives. As for the issue of past and future lives, it is my observation that many current life sciences have not yet explored this subject with sufficient depth or rigor. In this regard, the established field of Western psychology appears to come somewhat closer to understanding the complexities of the human mind, but it still does not fully address the core issues, how a person's past life extends or how future lives exist. I've spoken about this issue at other schools as well. I believe that if we are to be responsible to humanity and to ourselves, of course, being dedicated to our own field is very important. But most fundamentally, we need to understand how past and future lives exist. If past and future lives truly do not exist, then we could do whatever we want. You could freely think or do anything you please. But if future lives really do exist in reality, then our future rebirths will indeed be very long and far-reaching. Therefore, we should make all kinds of diligent preparations for our future lives. We should commit fewer negative actions and strive to practice virtuous deeds as much as possible. In this way, I think this is the most responsible attitude one can have toward oneself. Otherwise, when some people in the world today come into this world and commit all kinds of negative actions, in the end, what do they actually become? It is truly terrifying. Sometimes when the future lives of certain individuals are revealed, it is indeed very pitiable to witness. But for us, there is simply nothing we can do. We are completely helpless. Human beings can be extremely intelligent at times. We can travel to the moon, and we can invent a vast multitude of unprecedented and revolutionary technologies. But sometimes when we look inward, we find ourselves to be very blind, and this is also something worth exploring.
Hello, Khenpo Sodargye. I am a student from the business school, majoring in business administration. I have a specific question I would really like to ask. From what I understand on a global scale right now, only in China, there is a lack of faith. In the eyes of foreigners, this is a truly frightening and alarming thing. When reflecting on our own country, I deeply feel that food safety issues have become rampant in recent years, as well as a significant downward trend in ethical and moral standards. Can this be attributed due to a complete lack of faith? Thank you very much.
Actually, I do not entirely agree with the statement that except for China, the whole world has faith. I have seen that there are many countries and regions in the world. For example, most Western countries are predominantly Christian believers. But if every individual truly and sincerely held such faith, the situation would be different. Then, if we were to judge by the total number of religious believers worldwide, that would not actually make sense. It is just that perhaps there are relatively more people who do not have a religious faith. In China, there are indeed a great many people who do not have religious beliefs. So in the foreseeable future, I think it mainly depends on the specific direction of education. In fact, the orientation of education and the internal thinking of some key leaders. If they are truly interested in traditional Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist culture and have some form of religious faith, then perhaps the situation can gradually begin to improve. But I think it's hard to expect a complete and sudden transformation. It has been a period of less than 100 years or so that our entire population has undergone such a remarkably significant transformation. In our modern society, most people without religious beliefs are considered admirable, while those who do have faith are often viewed quite differently and distinctly by others. This isn't the case in the UK. A while back, we had an academic exchange at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. At that time, some professors shared their observations with me that in Hong Kong, and more specifically at schools like the University of Science and Technology, among both the faculty members and the student body, we feel deeply reassured by people with faith and we have respect for them. If a minority of people do not possess faith, we tend to be more deeply concerned about them. This includes matters related to property and management. In these areas, we strive with our best efforts to choose people with faith. So I think as people learn more from various sources, slowly and steadily over time, most people will develop some degree of faith. In this way, the overall social atmosphere will also change. For example, in the Buddhist academy where I teach, there are 6,000 or 7,000 different people the government at the present time recognizes. All 6,000 or 7,000 of these individuals have faith. Because they all possess this faith, it remains very rare for any of them to do anything illegal. If we truly have faith, we have a sense of self-restraint, knowing what we can and cannot do. If we have this self-restraint, it gradually becomes beneficial to us as individuals. When people lack such restraint, they might end up doing many harmful things. These bad deeds, over time, their natural retribution will gradually reflect back on one's own body and mind. So for society as a whole, as I mentioned earlier, whether or not you have faith doesn't affect me personally, but deep down, many people really hope to have a faith. If you have a faith, at the very least, you are taking responsibility for your own actions.
Master, hello. I am from the law school, a student majoring in political science and administration. I would like to ask, in the history of Buddhism, it has gone through periods of development, as well as several cycles of prosperity and decline. Even in its birthplace, India, Buddhism once became extinct for a time. May I ask, Master, how do you view this matter? And, in your own view, how should Buddhism develop in the future in order to flourish even more effectively? Furthermore, I have another question. What is your view on the current Songshan Shaolin Temple? Thank you.
I firmly believe that the future of Buddhism depends on the collective karmic connections of all sentient beings. Looking at the growing attention Buddhism receives around the world today, a great many people across the globe sincerely have faith in Buddhism, are interested in it, and seek to fully understand its profound spiritual teachings. It is highly promising and holds significant potential for future growth and development. As Buddhists, each of us needs to contribute our own sincere and dedicated efforts. Furthermore, non-Buddhists should also show respect and appreciation for the profound teachings of Buddhism. Because the universal truths taught in Buddhism are certainly worth learning for everyone. I remember that in the sacred Buddhist scriptures, there is something like this. Because when the Buddha was physically alive, every local religion claimed that their own path was the best. One earnest disciple asked the Buddha, since every religion constantly says it is the absolute best, so how does Buddhism express what makes it distinct and unique from all the others? The Buddha answered, you should use your own wisdom to carefully and thoroughly examine my teachings. If what I say aligns perfectly with the universal truth of reality, then everyone should be able to recognize and acknowledge the profound facts of that truth. If it doesn't fit, then none of you need to accept it. I do not have a separate Buddhism. Later, this disciple spent a long time observing and reflecting. In the end, he found that what the Buddha said was truly the truth. So he believed in it firmly and without doubt. I say the same thing. As a Buddhist myself, why exactly do I share my own personal life experiences with everyone in this community? Because I see that what is taught in Buddhism, whether from a macro or micro perspective, it should be able to withstand scientific verification and the scrutiny of personal experience. After going through this process, when we truly discover the crystallization of human thought, if we refuse to acknowledge it, perhaps that is just human ignorance. Therefore, the future of Buddhism is fundamentally dependent upon how much people understand the truth. It ultimately rests in their hands. Personally, I am not especially well acquainted with the Shaolin Temple. Last year, when I passed by once, I saw it from a distance. They said to me, the Shaolin Temple is right here. I said, so that is where the world-famous Shaolin Temple is located, because in the 1980s, everything began for us with the movie Shaolin Temple. In people's minds, Shaolin, Shaolin, that famous song, back when we were young students in school. From that time on, people started paying more attention to the Shaolin Temple. Later on, all sorts of different things happened in the world, but overall, on that particular day, I saw a very interesting quote from Abbot Shiyongxin. He explained that the country originally wanted the Shaolin Temple to go public on the stock market. Later, after a great deal of persistent effort and many discussions, they finally decided not to go public. I believe this entire situation was mentioned and shared on Master Jikun's official Weibo page. So it is my firm belief that any Buddhist organization may also face the scrutiny of public opinion and society's constant attention. In the process of being in the scrutinized spotlight and under the public eye, some of the attention is genuine and some of it might be false. There are also many complex issues involved here. So when future generations judge any great Buddhist master or Buddhist temple, especially when people are in the midst of heated discussion, you should use your wisdom to observe as meticulously as possible, ideally as if using a microscope. Don't use a magnifying glass. Sometimes a magnifying glass doesn't give you the right perspective.
Hello, Master Sodargye. I'd like to mention that Toynbee and Daisaku Ikeda pointed out in their talks that the way to address the negative impacts of science and technology is through a spiritual revolution within the human mind. That is, by improving human nature and ethics to solve these problems. What is your view on this perspective?
I think regarding this question, I already addressed it just now when answering the first question. Because the negative impacts and painful consequences of science are indeed present in our world nowadays, one primary reason is that many people still do not fully understand or appreciate the true positive value of science, but instead apply it in harmful ways. This is especially true for teenagers who find it hard to grasp the right boundaries. Many young people today learn very little valuable scientific knowledge and are also unwilling to learn it. They focus on all sorts of flashy, worthless things, all kinds of dazzling, confusing colors that are especially attractive, and they become deeply absorbed and increasingly addicted to these things. This phenomenon, as we can clearly observe, is also a fundamental reason for the decline of human morality. So, in a certain sense, we should make use of scientific concepts, and then we can actively promote excellent traditional culture. I think this is extremely valuable and immensely meaningful for our modern society. For example, everyone can wisely use the most advanced scientific methods to promote genuine acts and the timeless, enduring spirit of truth, goodness, and beauty. Science also plays a very significant role in this vital regard.
Respected Khenpo, hello. I am from Class 102 of the College of Agricultural Engineering and Food Science. Through many previous educational videos and historical films, we have clearly learned that, in the distant past, dedicated professional Buddhist disciples all lived a strictly disciplined monastic life, completely detached from all mundane worldly affairs and secular concerns, and formed such a community. So I would really like to know, regarding the current professional Buddhist disciples, what specific kind of daily lifestyle and spiritual routine do they actually lead? What is their main way of life, and do they encounter any troubles in their daily lives? And where do these troubles come from, and how are they resolved? Thank you.
Actually, this kind of distraction primarily arises because when compared with ancient Buddhist monasteries, things are more scattered and rather unfocused nowadays. To be honest, we now often notice that in many monasteries, including some monastics, the overall time spent studying the Dharma, in every single aspect, it is no longer as good as it once used to be. When I first took my vows to become a monk and entered into our institute, for more than 10 years, it was extremely quiet and peaceful. But now, on one hand, there are some conveniences because Buddhism is not only a path of renunciation, it also has significantly elevated levels of transcendence, as well as more grounded and worldly intermediate levels. So when we form positive connections with many people in the world, if it were in a remote and desolate mountain, extremely quiet, especially for people in today's particularly busy society, I'm afraid that a monastery or a place of practice isolated from the world may not necessarily be able to form positive connections. But there are also some negative aspects to this, including the fact that many Han Chinese Buddhist temples have become tourist attractions and so on. Recently, I saw that some policies also require that in the future, temples cannot be contracted out or listed on the stock market and so on. Actually, this is a very good thing, and we especially hope for it as well. Monasteries should have authentic and genuine teachers who study and teach the Dharma and provide regular spiritual teachings. In Tibetan regions, up to now, monasteries have not been subjected to particularly severe interference. Basically, in every monastery, perhaps in more than 70 or 80% of the monasteries, there is a tradition of Buddhist culture with long-term study, debate, composition, and the practices of listening, contemplation, and meditation. Whereas in other places, although some monasteries, they may appear magnificent or extremely splendid on the surface, but internally, some monasteries do have good software facilities, and their Dharma teachings in various aspects are quite good. But in some places, things may not be as satisfactory. So in this regard, people in the Buddhist community have long been rather concerned and are exhausting every possible avenue, currently implementing various measures.
Hello, Khenpo Sodargye. I'm from Transportation College. The question I have is, in order to successfully survive in this world, there are many factors that force us to pursue fame and profit. The worldview that Buddhism pursues, is it in conflict with this kind of secular worldview? If they are not in conflict, what is the state when they are integrated? And how does that look? Thank you.
It's like this. In the secular world, people are expected to chase after fame and fortune. But actually, Buddhism also allows for this to a certain extent. It just shouldn't be pursued excessively. This point is not contradictory. And it is also very important to understand, because as a common human being, no matter who you are, if you blindly pursue fame and profit excessively, it will probably be quite harmful to yourself as well. Nowadays, we frequently see many corrupt officials and many common lawbreakers in our society. Because of excessive greed and uncontrolled personal desire driven by these, many have ultimately violated the laws of the land and been disciplined. Such phenomena are quite common in society. So, what is the Buddhist perspective on life? You shouldn't be overly greedy, nor should you be excessively poor. In Buddhism, there are some people like Milarepa who completely let go and see through worldly things. Such people have a very high realization. They have no need for material desires. But for those in the middle and lower levels, their way of life avoids both extremes. Don't be excessively wealthy, and don't be excessively poor either. This is also a fully developed concept in Buddhism. So I very quite often think in daily life, how wonderful it would be if more people had the Buddhist perspective on life, because the Buddhist view of life allows you to enjoy life within the scope of your own abilities and blessings. Buddhism fully permits this. Such great fame, immense fortune, and a luxurious lifestyle are also allowed in this world. But nowadays it is certainly true that, as the famous old saying goes, all the bustling activity under heaven is for fame. All the constant jostling is for the sake of profit. People come and go for the sake of fame and profit. Many people strive to pursue these things excessively, which is actually harmful to themselves. But Buddhism does not reject or condemn a moderate amount of fame and fortune.
Respected Venerable, hello. I am a student from the School of Science. Just a few days ago, I happened to learn from a short video that in one of your many previous lectures, you once specifically addressed a very important question about how we should face the various forms of suffering in our lives. It's true, there's a lot of suffering in our lives. For example, suffering that comes from the body or the mind. There is a lot of suffering from both, so I would like to ask you, how exactly should we face suffering? Thank you.
I've talked about this topic, how to face suffering, in Hong Kong Polytechnic University. I think I talked about some principles on how to deal with afflictions and suffering there. As a matter of fact, I just mentioned this as well. If we have a relatively solid wisdom within our hearts, our ability to face suffering will be much stronger. Of course, if we were to discuss each aspect one by one, it would probably take quite some time. So I sincerely hope that you can actively study some Buddhist teachings. Because in Buddhism, there is a specific text called The Way of the Bodhisattva, composed by the famous Indian master Shantideva. If you examine and study this treatise thoroughly, you should be able to face suffering with great strength. No matter what kind of suffering it is, you will be able to face it with courage. I often think that many people nowadays, and some people have mentioned this recently as well, if they had not studied Buddhism, they might not have survived their suffering at that time. So sometimes when we learn some genuine knowledge, it can really help us deal with our own suffering. In Buddhism, the highest method for facing suffering is to recognize the true nature of things. If you can even slightly recognize this true nature, Suffering neither comes nor goes, stays nor ends, arises nor dies. Such a state is truly remarkable.
I have a question. Some time ago, I watched a video about Emperor Ashoka. I want to ask, in the early part of Ashoka's life, he caused so many wars and so many people died because of him. Later, he promoted Buddhism. In Buddhist teachings, there's the concept of karmic obstacles. His trampling on life earlier, and his later promotion of Buddhism. Can his good deeds truly offset his evil ones? Ultimately, in a person's entire life, what is the fundamental relationship between their bad deeds and their good deeds? And what kind of significant impact would this have on his next life? Thank you very much for your guidance.
Historically speaking, according to the historical records of the great Emperor Ashoka, first he caused the tragic deaths of countless innocent lives through the Kalinga War. But later, long after the Buddha entered nirvana, he meticulously gathered all of the relics of the Buddha together. Some historical records say he built 84,000 stupas, while other sources say it was as many as 1 million stupas. There are several different accounts. In any case, he built an extraordinary and vast number of stupas in many locations all over the world. These stupas spread throughout the entire world with the help of some non-human powers. I saw in a historical record that among his 84,000 stupas at the time, there were 16 or 19 stupas in China, which have also been passed down through the ages. This includes the White Stupa at Mount Wutai, which was also originally commissioned and built by Emperor Ashoka during that period. So, with Emperor Ashoka first committing negative deeds and later performing virtuous acts, what did the course of his life ultimately become? This is something that, as later generations, we find very difficult to fathom. But there is one thing we can point out. The Buddha specifically recorded this in the sutras. It seems that about 100 years later, Emperor Ashoka appeared specifically. He gathered the relics and once again actively promoted the Dharma. So, when we observe and reflect from this prophecy and this perspective, the negative karma created earlier after being purified through sincere confession, he made contributions to Buddhism, and later he also had the opportunity to go to a pure land. So I think that for every person, it's not necessarily the case because of the circumstances of their birth. Everyone lives a completely spotless life in a single lifetime. Some people, perhaps when they are young, encounter many negative influences and commit many unwholesome deeds. However, at a later time, through sincere confession and diligent practice, there is still a chance to make amends for past mistakes. This point can also be corroborated by various other sacred scriptures and religious texts.
Master, hello. I am currently a student majoring in business administration at the business school. I feel very fortunate to be able to attend your expert guidance like this. First of all, I sincerely want to say a big thank you to you. Secondly, I would also like to ask you a specific question. Compared to the reality of limited resources, the scope of human desires is truly infinite. I believe that we inherently need these desires to progress. It is precisely because we have these desires that we constantly try every possible way and exert our utmost effort. It is necessary to work diligently to achieve such goals. However, in the process of fulfilling these desires, different individuals will choose to adopt a diverse range of approaches to reach their objectives. Insofar as the market is currently concerned, it is precisely because consumers have desires that companies use their own methods to make a wide variety of efforts to fulfill these evolving consumer desires, to fulfill their own desires. However, it is important to recognize that different individuals will adopt different approaches when pursuing their goal. For some, the tireless and sincere efforts they exert to achieve their deepest desires can be truly moving and inspirational to those who witness their journey. Conversely, there are others whose chosen methods are fundamentally shameful, relying on deceit or manipulation that ultimately undermines the integrity of their achievements and leaves a negative impact on the world around them. The impression that a Chan practitioner conveys is one of profound transcendence, free from worldly desires and distracting thoughts. They are always able to deeply understand and connect with their true selves so they can reach a higher state of spiritual and mental transcendence. I'd like to ask you, what is your personal perspective and view on such desires, and how should we use the faith you just mentioned to support and nurture our own desires and guide them in a more positive and meaningful direction? Thank you very much.
As I just mentioned, the fundamental and basic Buddhist attitude toward life is a perfectly normal and balanced perspective. For example, consider the daily operation of a commercial business or the various ways it attracts and engages potential consumers in our modern world, and so on. Buddhism also quite openly permits these certain specific types of act in this regard. Because more than 2,500 years ago, when Buddhism emerged, to tell the truth, whether in India or many various other places, the systems of commerce and trade were not nearly as developed as the advanced systems we see today. But even in those times, the ancient Vinaya Sutra and associated Buddhist scriptures already contained discussions about commerce. There are highly detailed and comprehensive records on exactly how these business operations should be conducted. During that period, the Buddha fully acknowledged the existence of normal human desires and the necessity of engaging in various business activities as part of everyday life. But the pursuit of excessive greed and selfish gain, along with unreasonable desires and worldly attachments, are things the Buddha consistently forbade. So, from the broader perspective of a modern business or an everyday consumer, as I mentioned earlier, if you deeply possess a profound sense of compassion and a sense of responsibility toward the world, then the products you make and every single thing that you do, you can bear the responsibility of cause and effect, and you won't excessively become too greedy. Just like the toxic infant milk powder, recycled gutter oil, and all kinds of unsafe food products we see today, someone with such a virtuous mindset would absolutely never do such things. They would never seek to obtain things through illegal means or satisfy their unreasonable desires. In the teachings of Buddhism, all the material or spiritual gains derived from such unwholesome actions are never praised or encouraged. However, if you choose to operate in a more normal, proper, and ethical way, the quality of life you gain from such virtuous conduct will always be fully supported, permitted, and blessed by the Dharma. There are both significant historical precedents and extensive scriptural support for this. So, from the theological perspective of a Buddhist like myself, nowadays it has become something you could say is nationwide. This is especially true in an era where commercialism is extremely prevalent and widespread. In this current day and age, everyone should strive to have a conscious mindset of, do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. As a matter of fact, this is also very frequently advocated and taught in Buddhism, the so-called practice of exchanging self and others' perspectives and positions. If we stray from this core principle and engage in excessive promotion or the exaggeration of facts, in the end, even the companies themselves may not have a very promising or sustainable future. So this vital sense of proportion is really placed in the hands of the business organization or the individual entrepreneur themselves to manage.
I'm from the School of Construction Engineering. I have a bit of a question. We are all aware of the fact that Buddhism emphasizes attaining liberation. To achieve absolute freedom, one needs to be able to let go. But how do we effectively differentiate between the act of letting go and engaging in passive avoidance? If we don't handle it well, it could turn into passive avoidance. That's one. Also, I previously spent time reading the Diamond Sutra. I initially felt like I could understand it well at first, but later on, there were parts I couldn't understand. So I would like to ask for your guidance. What methods should I use to study Buddhist scriptures? Thank you very much, Master.
Actually, letting go, there is a well-known saying, lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot. There is also the wise saying, see through everything, let go of it all, and be at ease. But when we talk about letting go, there is a kind of letting go that is escapist, and another that stems from a higher state of realization. Letting go from this state means you truly understand the nature of samsara. For instance, humans have human suffering, and animals have animal suffering. Hell beings suffer. Ultimately, samsara's three realms are like a pit of fire, devoid of happiness. At this point, you release all worldly ties. Just like in Chinese Han Buddhism, there are quite a few eminent monks and great masters. When they became monastics, it was not out of escapism. Because they understood the truth of samsara, in the end, things like so-called emotions and status are all like illusions and bubbles without any real meaning. Then they go to a quiet place and attain realization. This is one kind of letting go. There is also another case, just like what is promoted in some TV shows and movies nowadays. It seems that when a person really encounters some problems, they run to a monastery to escape. This is a form of escapism. But this is not the genuine and true letting go that is spoken of in the Buddhist tradition. This specific manner of letting go is also distinctly different from other various forms of letting go. Also, the Diamond Sutra may be quite challenging to fully comprehend at first glance, because the Diamond Sutra is one of the most important scriptures on the prajna teachings given by Shakyamuni Buddha. If you haven't studied Madhyamaka before, such as the treatises like the root verses of the Middle Way or the Entering the Middle Way, there may seem to be many repetitions and even contradictions. But in fact, these are just different levels or perspectives. Like we said, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, that kind of meaning. If you want to understand, you can find resources online. I have also given teachings on the Diamond Sutra before. There are lecture notes on the Diamond Sutra. For example, Master Nan Huai-Chin and numerous other scholars have given teachings on the Diamond Sutra. So if you read the commentaries and annotations on the Diamond Sutra, you might gradually come to understand it, because the Diamond Sutra is a very profound prajnaparamita scripture. If we understand it as easily as reading a novel, that would be wonderful. But in reality, its meaning is quite deep and subtle. It may take a certain amount of time to truly understand its true meaning.
All right, thank you, Khenpo. Let's leave the last question for our teacher, Wu. We'll leave it to our teacher.
I have a question. Just a few short days ago, I was reading an interesting book that briefly mentioned it is truly fascinating that modern scientific astronomy has recently produced a very specific data which is astonishingly similar to what is described in the ancient Buddhist Kalachakra Tantra. For example, when we examine the orbits of the Moon, the Earth, and even the distant planet Saturn, their paths of movement and their cyclical trajectories through the vastness of space, these two perspectives seem to be extremely similar in nature. Modern astronomy utilizes precise instruments and advanced technology to conduct its scientific research. In the tradition of Buddhism, how exactly did the Buddha obtain this profound knowledge so long ago? Thank you.
That is certainly a very good and thought-provoking question to ask. Actually, when we look back at the long history of humanity's remarkable discoveries about outer space and the science of astronomy, we generally believe that it has only been in the relatively recent span of the past 300 or so years that modern astronomy, including the revolutionary breakthroughs by Copernicus and many others, has truly made such significant progress. That is the widely held view, but what you just mentioned is indeed true. In the ancient Buddhist text known as the Kalachakra Tantra, there are extremely detailed calculations. For example, they determine how many solar eclipses and lunar eclipses occur in a single month, and precisely when the new year falls. These things are now a core part of what we call the Tibetan calendar. Currently, we utilize the lunar calendar, the traditional Tibetan calendar, and the standard Gregorian calendar. To this very day, the Tibetan calendar does not require the use of any scientific instruments. At our Buddhist academy, we have a dedicated group of experts for astronomical calculations. They often utilize a traditional calendar abacus, inputting a series of specific numbers onto its surface. Through the application of profound astronomical calculations, much like the complex systems found within the Buddha's sacred Kalachakra Tantra, they can ultimately determine the exact date and the precise moment at night when a lunar eclipse is scheduled to occur during this current year. This method has existed since ancient times, even before scientific instruments were invented, because the Kalachakra Tantra is a tantric teaching, personally spoken and transmitted by Shakyamuni Buddha, expounded at Danyakataka in southern India. This doctrine has continued to exist and remain relevant up to the present day. If you would like to understand these fundamental concepts in much greater detail, Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro of our academy has a work called Luminous Wisdom. In one of the volumes of Luminous Wisdom, there is a very precise comparison of data between modern science and the Kalachakra Tantra. The data shows only a very slight difference at the very end. Otherwise, it is completely and perfectly identical. And the reasoning behind this is also explained quite clearly. In fact, this kind of reasoning, I have personally found that in the Mayan culture today, the people still do not rely on any modern scientific instruments. Instead, they continue to use their own traditional methods of calculation for such complex reasoning as well. Furthermore, they are able to explain the entire field of astronomy, including the intricate nature of time, in a way that is very clear and comprehensive. So, when it comes to these remarkable ancient cultures, we may truly need to have a deeper understanding of their unique perspectives and wisdom. For example, in Tibetan region, the Kalachakra Tantra's calendrical calculations do not require any instruments. They are able to make calculations. This is also something that greatly surprises Western scientists. They wonder by what means such calculations can be made. So perhaps those of you present here really need to continue researching and delving much deeper into this. In doing so, you will find there are profound mysteries within.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Khenpo. I know that many of our students still have a lot of important questions they want to ask, but our time for this session is unfortunately limited. If you are interested in learning more, you can search for Khenpo's various teaching videos on the Baidu search engine. Khenpo has given lectures at more than 20 universities. The questions you've asked may have already been answered by Khenpo at other universities. So everyone, please take a look at those later. Next, let's invite Dr. Mao Yong from Shandong University of Technology to give a concluding speech.
Respected and Venerable Khenpo Sodargye, dear and esteemed teachers and fellow students, it truly feels as though this whole afternoon has passed by us so very quickly. On such an auspicious day in the golden autumn and bountiful harvest season, it's truly fortunate enough to personally listen to the profound and wonderful teachings of Khenpo Sodargye. This is truly an extraordinarily rare and incredibly precious opportunity for us. In Buddhist terms, it is something that is extraordinarily difficult to come across even in hundreds of thousands of eons. So deep within my heart, I feel an immense sense of joy and profound gratitude. Just a few moments ago, Dr. Yang asked me to provide a comprehensive summary of everything we have discussed. In fact, I simply do not dare to. I am not qualified to summarize, nor do I dare to do so. I would like to share just a few of my own insights and reflections. Through listening to Khenpo's enlightening lecture and the Q&A session we just experienced, I have come to deeply understand two essential key words. The first of these profound words is wisdom. After all, this entire discussion is fundamentally about the journey of awakening to the true essence of life through the power of wisdom. The second key concept is compassion. Khenpo emphasized that the future of science is rooted in the development of great compassion. A science guided by great compassion, that is its direction. If we talk about awakening to life with wisdom and shouldering the future of science, Buddhism has undoubtedly opened a profound door of wisdom for all of us, offering us a path toward enlightenment. And just now, Khenpo's wonderful and deeply insightful teachings have also clearly pointed us in the right direction, providing the guidance we need to navigate our journey. We can say that on this special day, the Venerable Khenpo has truly traveled all the way from the snowy heights of the Tibetan Plateau to visit us here in our ancient welcoming land of Kilu to share his profound wisdom with us. This gathering is bringing us a magnificent feast of top-level wisdom, profound insight, and visionary thought. It truly feels like a life-changing revelation, deeply refreshing both the body and the mind in a way we never expected. We sincerely regret not having met much sooner to share in this brilliance. So here, I would like to propose that, with the utmost gratitude in our hearts and with a warm, enthusiastic round of applause, we would like to extend our most heartfelt gratitude to Khenpo Sodargye. The Dharma does not arise alone. It depends on conditions. The Master has come to this place and today has shared with us knowledge of Mahayana Buddhism and even some teachings of Vajrayana. This is truly a wonderful karmic connection for Shandong University of Technology. It can also be said that this signifies the significant beginning of the widespread propagation and growth of Vajrayana Buddhist thought here within our local community. To express our heartfelt gratitude, our organizing committee has carefully prepared a special commemorative gift for the Master. To honor this special occasion, we have specially commissioned an artist to paint a portrait for the Venerable Master. Once again, we wish to express our deepest gratitude to the Master for his guidance. Along with our profound gratitude, we would also like to offer our heartfelt blessings and prayers. We wish the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye, as well as the world's largest Buddhist academy where he resides, continued prosperity and the flourishing of wisdom for the benefit of all beings. At the Larongga Five Sciences Buddhist Academy in Sichuan, we witness their ever-growing success in their profound Dharma propagation and benefit to all sentient beings. We sincerely wish that the Venerable Khenpo Sodargye and all great monks and masters, may they always enjoy good health and very long lives in this world. I would also like to take this opportunity to wish everyone here all the best, and may everything go as you wish. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mao, for that truly wonderful and inspiring speech. Now, may I please invite Khenpo to the lounge for a rest. Students, please wait a moment. After Khenpo leaves, we will exit the venue in order.